I'm sure one of the most often asked questions of you is how you remember so many things. How did it start?
Oh, I remember so many things. I read. My aunt used to tell me that I can't write, and she said that I can't read either. No, I remember one day. She was a teacher of the basic school that I used to attend in Moko. It's like that. Now, in those days, you don't have a book. You have a slate with a slate pencil, and she walks very fast. And what I was trying to do is to try to get ahead of her, and I fell down, and the slate broke in four. And she just walked up, looked at me, and looked at the slate and said, "Oh, you have four books now." And she walked off. So the four pieces of slate is what I used to write on. Now, when you write on this side of the slate, and for you to write, you have to keep rubbing out, but you have to remember what you write. So I guess that helps me to remember the stuff that I was writing down. So probably that's what helped me a lot in remembering things, because I would write, and whenever I rub it out, I would remember what I wrote. So, you know,
But it
that's
also
what it
went
is.
way beyond your auntie. Take me back to mama days, granny days.
Hey, Granny, she's something else. My grandma, she's an old lady who would say to you, come, let's go to bush. Now, when you go bush, she would probably, well, yes, pick a leaf from a tree. And in those days, they had some apron, and the aprons would reach them down here, and a long pocket, and she would drop the leaf in the pocket for me not to see. And then when we get home and in the kitchen, she would sit down, and she liked to roast banana, and we would roast banana and eat. And then she would take the leaf from the pocket and give it to me and said, "Boy, see if you can go find the leaf um, for this tree." So I would go. Probably sometime I spent a long time, sometimes it's a short time. I would find the leaf, bring it back, and then she'd tell me a story about the tree. And telling me a story about the tree, she would tell a story as if it was a tree that would harm you, or about duppies, and so for you not to break the branches from the trees. And up until today, I like pimento because that was one of the trees that was I learned about at the very first inset when she was telling me about trees. And even quack bush. I don't know if I don't see any quack bush around here. But quack bush, we used to bathe in the quack bush for our skin, and use it with guinea weed. She would give you guinea weed to smell, and when she give you the guinea weed to smell, that will knock any cold out of you because it's very strong. Fresh guinea weed is very strong. You know. But that's how I did it with my grandmother and my aunt. My mom was the next one who taught me about doing embroidery, doing crochet, doing knitting. And this is macrame. And I learned this from my mom because we used to make belts and the bags using cords. And I made this just to keep my my key together. Um, she taught me to do embroidery and crochet and knitting also. Mama taught me how to build lampshades from fudge sticks and a host of other craft work. And you could just knit little things and make little small earrings from it and all of that. But she taught me a lot. One of the stories she tell me about is that the cotton tree, this huge cotton tree that a lot of people call duppy cotton tree, the silk cotton tree, which the Tainos, and nowadays we call them arwaks. The Tainos use to make dugout canoes, and also to do make hammocks. They would also use the seeds from the cotton pads to make extract oil for cooking. Now, the cotton is very soft. My mom told me that there was a tree. Well, I was about 11, 12 at that time, when the tree fell down at Ferry in 1971. The tree fell down in 1971, and out at Ferry where it fell down, it from research that I've done about the tree, it said that it felt like a mini earthquake. Now my mom, we were living not too far away from when it happened, and my mom would always tell me that the fir cotton tree was pulled down by duppies, because it was the duppies that was living under the tree. They are the ones who pushed the cotton tree over in the middle of the road, because they had cut off the largest limb which they used to sit on at nights to smoke and drink. And that's how the cotton tree fell down. That was another dopey story about cotton tree. She told me a lot of stories. I'm not a TV person. I don't watch TV. I mostly read and write, and that's where I developed my skill as probably a tour guide. There are many other persons such as Mariam Samad and her husband Abu Samad who were instrumental in allowing me to do a lot more research than um, in those early days when I was doing research, and they taught me a lot.
How did you land it here at Hope?
Oh wow! I There was a friend of mine, Courtney Hill. Um, he, um, he was the one that invited me here to come and talk to Mr. Simon about doing a sign for the garden. While I was coming on a bus, a friend of mine called me and said to me, where are you going today? We were talking. I said, where are you going? So I said, I'm going to Hope Garden. She said, that there is an ad in the newspaper saying that they need somebody to work. When I got here and I went up to the office, indeed it was so, and I wrote an application and a resume and handed it in, and the following week I was interviewed, and at the end of the interview, Mrs. Buck said to me, we will call you by Friday. That Friday, I was in my house standing up and got the call. And when I got the call, I was so elated because I was working nights in security for many, many years. And at that time when I was working with Charlie Chaplin, the DJ, Mr. Bennett, right? And it gave me a relief because now I'm going to work days. So, and I'll be able to stay home at nights, So and I got the job here, and started out as a security officer. Uh, in 2012, we had in 2012 there was a opening for a tour guide certificate, and I took part in that, and I was successful in getting a tour guide certificate. And this certificate was from Heart, so it's really a big one. So from there, while here, I was not doing any tours per se, but I was writing and doing research, going all over the places, going to the archives in Spanish Town, going to the Institute of Jamaica, and really going around to different sites to find out what is there and all of that. Um, in so doing, in 2014, I was removed from the day shift and placed on the night. This is something else. And while on the night shift, I was in the area where the Chinese garden is, as now, and we were enclosed inside here. Now, while I was here, there was about 17 or so Chinese living around the back. Uh, the other one of them being and the other one, they would come at night and I would talk to them, and so I would want to learn what the language is, and they told me to download a they showed me how to download a app. I still have it on my phone today, Chinese skill, and it was able for me to say ni hao, see, and I could say something to them, right? And wahaini, and I could really say something because now the app was helping me to do that. And from there, I went on doing these different session in the night with them, and I learned about the different buildings. As a matter of fact, I started to research the different structures long before it was completed because they had given me the names of them, and so I was doing my own research. Um, on the 4th of September 2015, Mr. Chung took me from the night shift and placed me on the day shift again. And now I'm on the day shift. And the very first day that I got the papers from Mr. Chung about what was here, I really put down the paper because I'd already did a lot of research at home. And just before then, the day, I did some in the night, and the following morning, I was able to do 5 tours that day. And from then, that's really how I got into it.
Walk me over to this, what seemed like a very simple
Oh,
plant.
this is the ivy. It's a parasite. This is couscous grass. This is what the root is what the well, you'd have to dig the root to get, right. But they in oak gardens here, there are some trees that I didn't know, and I went ahead and did research on them, and I found that they are not only in oak gardens, but they can be found in other gardens such as Castleton, Bath, and at Syncona. Uh, and even on some of the larger estates, you will find other trees that are here, especially the elephant ears tree, which is the national tree of Costa Rica. You can find those trees right here and around in St. Andrew. Now, the lily pond right here, this lily pond was built in 1950. The bottom of the pond, this side is lined with concrete, that side is lined with clay. So you know the water is not going to go down. It's going to stay there. Now, going that way, this pond is 140 meters long. I measured it. And all of these are lotus lilies. These are the lotus lilies. But these lilies, even though at this time of the morning they're open, I'm very sure by 11 o'clock they will all be closed. They're nocturnal. They only bloom at night. They will open tonight, and some of them started to close up already. Those pink ones they are closing. Pink ones are closing, and some of the white. If you notice that they were all open earlier this morning, now they're closing up. Right? In the pond, the 1950 in the pond, the water that flows here is actually water that comes from the Oak River. And the water from the Oak River has been running on the Oak Estate since 1758 when an aqueduct was built to take water from the river onto the estate. So this water here is really the Oak River that we're looking at. And it has an overflow on the other side. And on the other side of the pond, there's an outline of the map of Jamaica in the middle of the pond. These are escargots. They eat them. The Chinese would crack them open and eat them with garlic sauce. Right? And there are a whole ton load of them inside here.